Center on ESPN right after PTI. Meanwhile, let's talk about Deshaun Watson. Before the season began, I chose him to be the league MVP. Now, he's been under a lot of pressure since the start of last year. In 2018, coming back from the torn ACL, he was sacked 62 times, most any player in a season since John Kitna in 06. Started this year, more of the same. Sacked 18 times the first 4 weeks, including an NFL worst 2-game stretch where he was sacked 6 times in each of them. But it's been a different story since. He hasn't taken a single sack the last 2 weeks. The only player to start games each week without taking a sack over that stretch. So what are we seeing that is different about Deshaun right now?
Cognitively, he's getting the ball out faster. What that means practically, Greeny, he was getting the ball out in 2.9 seconds. Now he's getting it out in 2.5. For a defender, somebody that plays linebacker, that plays safety, all your blitzes are off timing. You know, if you can get to him before he gets the ball out, that's a big play. But to me, the implications are, if Deshaun is now getting the ball out fast, the Texans are a top 5 team and a Super Bowl contending team. Deshaun holding on to the ball, the Texans are just another team if he gets hurt or anything like that.
Yeah, and listen, while I'll say this because all the people watching TV are yelling it. They've played back-to-back bad defenses. We get that. They played Atlanta and Kansas City, and we understand. But having said that, a win in Kansas City, I think, will open up a lot of eyes. I opened the show this morning by saying Chiefs and Patriots are the 2 teams in the AFC. If someone's knocking on that door, is it Houston?
I think Houston's right there. And don't forget the Indianapolis Colts, who also went into Kansas City and won as well.
And they play this weekend.
That's correct.
Houston and Indianapolis. What are you seeing in Deshaun right now with the Texans, and how good can he make them?
I think it's a couple of things. Number one, remember the trade for Laramie Tunsil. I think we're getting that side of the offensive line shored up. And also, I just think that, you know, when you're taking that many hits, you're not going to last. You know, we've seen it with Andrew Luck with the Indianapolis Colts. So I think it's been a concerted effort by the Houston Texans. Look, let's get the ball out quicker. Let's not go for the home run play all the time.
And the other thing is, remember, every game he plays, he's further removed from an ACL injury. In 2019, everybody thinks, oh, you tear an ACL, not a big deal. He's still regaining his health. So every game he plays, he's only getting healthier and he's only getting better.
And another point to be made here, again, quickly, is this week it was effective. The strategy is to keep Patrick Mahomes on the sideline. So they threw a lot of short passes, not what he usually does. But maybe you mix a little bit more of that into the game plan, and it winds up working out for everybody. That's a huge game this weekend. Meanwhile, let's get to some NBA action. Last night, we had the Lakers and the Warriors. It's a preseason game, and we can take a look at some of the highlights because it's these really famous, really good players, and it's worth watching. How comfortable, Jay Will, as I bring you into it here, that these guys already look moving the ball together. You'll see some spectacular ball movement as we continue here.
Well, I know we used to say that D. Wade and LeBron were peanut butter and jelly, but there's a new iteration of peanut butter and jelly, and that's Anthony Davis and LeBron James. With LeBron James being that point forward, look at that. I mean, 5 months of rest screening. This is the biggest lineup you're going to have in the NBA. Maybe one of the best defensive teams as well.
I want you to see this one. Look at this pass. Woo! Look at that.
But I've seen multiple plays over the past 4 preseason games where he's not needed to dribble. He sees the play before it even happens.
That voice you're hearing off camera is Damian Woody, the biggest Laker fan I know. Can we just briefly mention that that's LeBron James at his age going over the head, behind the back, left-handed to the corner?
Oh.
Are you kidding?
I mean, Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, Danny Green, KCP. Just say thank you to LBJ.
That was part of the show. Now, look, it has been a fascinating little stretch of time here for LeBron James. We're all very much aware of what's going on with him between China and Hong Kong and everything else. And now he comes back here when he's got to try and get a season started, put that behind him, and get going into a year where I've been saying for some time, I feel like LeBron James is going on a scorched earth tour of the NBA. He sat back all through the playoffs last year and listened to you and RJ and Jalen and everyone on Get Up saying things like, Kevin Durant's the best player in the world. Kawhi Leonard's the best player in the world. This one, that one. I think LeBron is coming back this year to remind everyone he's actually the best player in the world.
Well, I think he's going to have a chance to be MVP this year. Now, the question is on the back end of the season, Greeny, how do you handle that if you're Frank Vogel? You want him to be fresh as possible for the playoffs. A big person that nobody talks about in this team is Kyle Kuzma. I mean, you not only have Anthony Davis and LeBron James, but Kyle Kuzma is another guy that we've seen him score at high clips. This team is destined to be in the Western Conference Finals. And also with their ability to shoot, LeBron James will come back and torch people because he's 6'9", 260 at the point guard position. They scored 71 points in the first half last night against the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, what I think will happen here is the Lakers will recognize, as much as LeBron did in the East, and I understand the competition is going to be much tougher, that they don't need home court advantage, that it isn't worth getting that one extra home game to get there to the end of the season. It's the dreaded load management, which you know I hate, but I think in this case it will make a lot of sense.
LeBron James is one of the most dominant players we've ever seen in the game. I do not think he'll win MVP for that reason alone. I think like a James Harden or a Stephen Curry, because they're going to have to play all these games in order for them to make the playoffs.
Don't sleep on Nikola Jokic as a sneaky good MVP candidate. And one of the other things I wonder about, and we don't have time to do it here, is if the Lakers play the Clippers in the playoffs, does it matter who has home court advantage? Because
I don't think
even for the Clipper home games,
still a home
that's
game.
going to be a Laker home game.
Exactly. And I would take the Lakers in that matchup because of their size. I think their size is a differentiator.
There's a lot to get to. Jalen's on his way in here. We'll do more of that.
J-Rose.
Jalen will also be interested in the game of the college football weekend because it is involving his beloved Michigan Wolverines. It's the whiteout at State College, number 10 Penn State, number 16 Michigan. This is Jim Harbaugh's second road game against a ranked opponent. The first one did not go well. It was 35-14 to Wisconsin that they lost earlier this year. And candidly, it wasn't as close as that would make it sound. And so there's been some discussion. Acho, I want you to sort of put this in perspective. How would you describe the ramifications of this weekend's game for Michigan?
This game is huge. It's Jim Harbaugh's biggest game against an opponent not named Ohio State. Put that into perspective. If they lose this game, Greeny, their goals for the season are over. College football player, you go into the season, you want to win your conference, then you want to make it to the playoffs, and then you want to win a championship. Well, Michigan, Wolverines, if you all lose, all those goals are done, and that is it. So for Michigan, this game is the game of all games. It's a must-win.
I thought Feinbaum put it well yesterday. He said Harbaugh will lose all credibility going forward in college football. And that's an interesting way to put it because I don't believe he'll get fired. If you're Michigan, you don't fire Jim Harbaugh. Where are you going from there? But at this point, I think they have managed to maintain the illusion that they are an elite program. And if they win this weekend and then they beat Notre Dame the following weekend, well, now, you know, all that is back on again. But if they lose these two games, I don't know how you even try to pretend that anymore.
You don't. If they lose this game and that following game, you can't even utter Harbaugh in that same category as elite or as excellent. The reason being, Harbaugh's the third highest paid head coach in college football behind Saban and Dabo. Yet he does not have that same production. If they find a way to lose, he's not elite. He's not excellent, and everybody has to stop trying to assume he is because he coached at the big house or a big place like Michigan. We want them to be great, but Harbaugh's let the team down.
There is a lot at stake in that game this weekend for both teams, candidly. Meanwhile, Acho always gives us a couple of trap games to keep a close eye on, and this week they both come from the SEC. The first one, Florida, South Carolina.
Yeah, to me, Greeny, you got to date everything. Two years back, Ohio State played Penn State, number 6 versus number 2, and that was a huge game. Ohio State wins 39-38. Well, what happens, Greeny, is after such a big game, the next week you have a letdown. So now to your point, Florida, South Carolina. Florida lost to LSU last week. They are still emotionally, physically drained from that loss. I think that after losing to LSU, there's a little bit of a letdown. I mean, how can you recover both? You just got in a dog fight, and now you have to bounce back. And mind you, you're going against the South Carolina team coming off the biggest win, Greeny, in my opinion, in South Carolina history. You beat Georgia, the number 3 team in the nation. I talked to Will Muschamp, head coach of South Carolina. He has a new rejuvenation. You can see him right there about to jump into one of his coaches or players' arms. There he is. The glasses are coming off. That's my man, Will Muschamp. So that's my first trap game.
Well, and then the other one involves the other side of the LSU-Florida showdown. Why is LSU on 11?
LSU put it on Florida last week. We saw that. Everybody knows how good Joe Burrow is with the help of Justin Jefferson at receiver, with the help of Joe Brady, new offensive analyst. We know exactly how good LSU has been. But just sooner or later, Greeny, you might have an emotional letdown. This is where LSU has to prove they are elite and can do it week in and week out. My question is, can they sustain this extremely high level of excellence? I'm not convinced Mississippi State can beat them, but I think if you're LSU, you got to watch out, because this for sure is a trap game.
I agree with you. Sometimes teams build games up. It becomes like your Super Bowl. And whether you win it or you lose it, it is hard to get up to play a big game the following week. We have much more to do this morning, just getting started, if you will, on Get Up Today. Patrick Mahomes still dealing with an ankle. Should the Chiefs sit him and let him heal, even if it means losing a few along the way? That's the question. We'll answer it. Get up on